you don't put some skin in the game or take some risk on that, you're not going to win. You're not just going to save your way to being number one.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 40 seconds in, we're going.
Never in the field of human conflict.
How do you measure such an astonishing moment in history?
You're listening to the bigQUEST podcast with Andy Murray. In a high-stakes, unpredictable world, every day is ripe with blue ocean adventures just waiting to be discovered. You need the mindset, the methods, and the motivation to lead with confidence into the unknown. Come along as we talk to today's top leaders, known for simplifying challenges, outsmarting variables, and inspiring greatness. Welcome to the bigQUEST podcast. Today, Andy is interviewing Sean Womack. Sean is the VP of Marketing and Innovation at a very interesting company. He's doing some very, I'd say, unexpected things. He's created opportunities in a space that most people might not think of opportunities. And you and Sean go way back. Tell us a little bit about Sean.
Yeah, I met Sean probably 27 years ago in a greeting card business, and he was both in the creative department and recognized right away that the guy had special talent and gift, and we ended up starting a company together and have worked together on and off in different capacities for many years. And I was out in the UK for the last 4 years, as you know, at ASDA, and he called me up one day and said he was coming over to London because was designing the brand. Happy Egg was doing some campaign development work for them, brand work, and so he came over, stayed at our place, and we walked stores, and he was telling about this cool brand. And Happy Egg is it's in the egg aisle, and you open up like real, farm fresh eggs. They're free range and really cool packaging, cool brand behind it, and it's not something you would typically expect to see in the egg aisle part of it. And in the UK, there are actually the eggs in the UK aren't not refrigerated, so that was something you get used to as an American to see happen. And so when Sean came over and showed me what he was doing with eggs, I was kind of curious, like, how much can you do with this, really, right? So I came back in March and I caught up with him and saw what he was doing, and was quite impressed. They went and taken it into a whole new brand campaign, and I'm excited to talk to him because I think he's doing some innovative stuff, and not only that, but creating a culture where bigQUEST type thinking can come to life. So I'm anxious for us to jump in and go talk to Sean. Hey, Sean, it's great to have you today, man. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Andy.
Hey, we been working through the whole process with bigQUEST, as you know, and I was thinking about you the other day, and I'm so glad you came to join us on this because, who would think that eggs would be such a cool brand idea? And until you and I had coffee that morning a couple weeks ago, perhaps, it occurred to me that you're onto something pretty big with a really cool story that's happening. And if there's anything that could resemble a quest, it'd be what you're doing. But a lot of people may not know. And so just tell us about the story of what you're doing and why you're excited about it.
Yeah, it's a good question. Back at the beginning of this year, in fact, it ended up just being the timing. I look back on all of this and just feel like I was like a little chess piece getting moved around a board. And I had gone and spent some time with a guy named Pete Richardson, might be a guy that you know, Andy, and spent 2 days in his basement sort of mapping out what was I going to do in life. I had sold my company. I had turned 50. Shelly and I had celebrated 25 years of being married, and I felt like I was like entering this second half of my adult life and sort of saying, what am I going to do for the next 25 years? And spent some real time with Pete. And we sort of honed down. I told him, I said, I need a purpose statement for my life. And we got to one. And the thing that it was I like creating beautiful originals that make people see, think, and feel differently. And we worked through a whole set of core values, et cetera. And I came back, and there was a buddy of mine that I knew that was looking, the CEO of Happy Egg. I knew he was looking for a head of marketing. And I called him. I said, hey, is this job still available? And he said, yes. So we started talking, and all of the values just lined up perfectly. I had known him, and he and I had done projects together for 8, 10, 12 years. And what he was wanting to do sounded like a big challenge. And when I talked to him about, look, this is what I want to be about, it just was so perfectly aligned. And I started on March 9th, literally the week when COVID shut everything down. So the idea that I would have been job hunting past that time, I felt very blessed that I just said yes, that there was a job available, and it came open. And so we hit the ground running. We've been working on pivoting really a brand in a category that is a little bit tired, that hasn't changed much in 40 or 50 years, and trying to really bring some consumer innovation and really some customer focus around the way it's messaged and marketed. And so we are having a blast with it. We're bent and determined on become the number one egg brand in the U.S., which we feel like is wide open territory for us. So.
What probably a lot of people don't know, though, I just came from 4 years in the UK, and Happy Egg is a staple item in the UK. Maybe that's because it started there, perhaps, but
it did start there. Yes, our founder and the man that still owns the business, 70 years. He literally grew up on an egg farm in Cornwall and pioneered free-range egg farming in the UK, where it's 60% of the egg market in the UK is free range, and he was the leading number one brand there. And so, he was really a pioneer. Sold out of the UK business, and pardon the pun, put all his eggs in the US basket, so to speak. And they've been here since 2012. They've had one sort of brand pivot, but this is the most significant one. So yes, we are as an organization, we're on a gigantic quest. And we have just a fantastic team, and we're having a blast. So,
what some people may not know, and when I went to the UK, I was shocked to find that eggs aren't refrigerated. And
isn't that wild? Yeah.
It's like, I don't understand the technology, why the chickens are different.
They're not different over here. So when chickens lay an egg, there's a protective coating around the egg, and if you just dust the egg off and put it in a case, then the protective coating will keep any of the potential, salmonella that could possibly be on the inside of the egg from leaching through the membrane to the outer shell. Well, in the U.S., we wash our eggs. We get them, they get washed, they get graded and weighed and everything else. That coating gets washed off. So you have to refrigerate them, because if they sit at room temperature when they sweat, some of that can come through, and it's just a health issue there. But no, same chickens lay the eggs the same way. Everything else is just, they're in the center of the shelf. It's very disconcerting to just see them with dry goods on the shelf.
It was when Mary sent me on an errand to go get groceries, and eggs was on the list. I wandered around the store for an hour, I think, looking at all the refrigerated and saying, why don't they have eggs?
Right? Yeah. Here's butter, here's milk. Where are the eggs?
Where are the eggs?
Right here. Yeah.
And they taste different too. They've got a more darker center. The yolk is more brownish or orangey or something.
Yeah, the free-range birds, because they forage a little bit out in the wild, some of the things they get, and also the feed. The UK and Europe in general, most of our feed experts and everything else are European. They really are probably 2 or 3 decades ahead of us in terms of just knowing how do you raise a bird in a way that takes care of it from a health standpoint. But the reason why you do free range is because they're pack animals and they like being outside, and it de-stresses the birds. For them to be all packed in a house all the time, it stresses the birds out. When they're under stress, like all of us, the work isn't as good. So their work happens to be eggs. So if the birds are stressed, the eggs aren't any good.
And I guess I saw these, we're buying them in Walmart because we were buying them in the UK, and I was surprised to see that proposition in a discount type grocery store. But apparently there's quite a demand for the eggs. What makes the idea so attractive?
I think it's a category that hasn't had any innovation in it in a long time. That's really consumer focused innovation. And so, really, I always tell everybody the chickens are really our manufacturing center for the egg, because the point isn't the chicken really just makes the egg, and an egg is a function of what's the breed of the bird and what are you feeding to the bird, because a lot of what you feed to the bird passes through to the egg. And so we're actually doing quite a bit of R&D around what feed, what breed of bird, and what's the output of the egg, and what's the best use of that particular egg. So there's some heritage breed, sort of heirloom breed of hens that we're farming at a pretty large scale. So the sort of dark mahogany shells and light blue shells, really rich amber yolks. We're the first people putting those out in mass on the market at Walmart, and we have stores that are just blowing through those. It's crazy the volume of eggs that those are moving, because
Wow.
people haven't had anything different, right? They've
No.
been large or mediums and white and brown shells, and it's a category that's sort of ripe for innovation. So we're trying to bring it there, and to have a brand that's like fun. We're named Happy Egg, so it's kind of, we can't take ourselves too seriously. We sell a product that falls out of a chicken, and so you can't take yourselves too seriously. So we're really trying to wrap a fun brand around
Yeah.
that. And we feel like right now's the time with COVID and the political climate, just all the things going, just 2020 in general. Everybody needs a pretty good dose of happy about right now. So
Oh yeah, what a great name, and what a great time to do it. I noticed, and congratulations on the relaunch of the brand. It came out, I saw it November 11th, which is fairly recent. Take us on that journey a bit, because where's there resistance? I mean, you took a pretty bold move to go to the consumer side and a whole new attitude with the Martin agency you picked, and it's taking a brand that hasn't really traditionally done consumer advertising like this. I'd just be curious what kind of challenges and obstacles you probably had to overcome, or maybe not. I don't know, but it just it's not a common thing to see in a commodity-ish type category to do some breakthrough type communication.
I think we have a number of things going for us as a company. The first is that they built a brand in the UK, and they understand the value of the brand, and it's the founder and owner of the brand still owns the brand name here in the US, and he brought it over. So for starters, he understands the value of brand. And so when about 3 years ago, when they shifted operations in the U.S. from San Francisco to Northwest Arkansas, so the corporate office is actually here in Bentonville Rogers area, and the CEO was just the sales guy selling into Walmart and some other retailers. They made him the CEO. He called me, and we did a really fast brand relaunch. And thankfully, they went from, sort of going in the wrong direction. It wasn't going up and to the right without giving away any specific numbers. It was just, they were not good ratios of profitability, and the direction the business was headed wasn't going in the right direction. It was going downward and to the right, not upward and to the right. And this brand shift that we made gave a better story. We were really focused on retail. We needed to give a really good retail specific story. There wasn't going to be any consumer advertising. It was literally just going to be, let's make it a more Americanized package, and let's make it look distinctive on the shelf, and let's give the sales team a really good story to go sell in. And they turned that around in the 3 years from when I just did the branding as a project to today, fastest growing egg brand in America. Literally
Wow.
faster growing than even a company, a big pasture raised egg that just went public, IPO. We're growing faster than them in the US. And so, a great turnaround story. So the team had a little bit of credibility, and perhaps I had a little bit of credibility because I did the first sort of like pivot to a US based. And so when we came in and we started doing some research, we realized that we were the number 2 egg brand in some of our best markets. Even ahead of brands that are ahead of us nationally, we were ahead of them in certain markets where we've been for a while. And then we did a pretty landmark piece of research with the authors of How Brands Grow. It has an institute in Australia. So Jenny Romanek, who wrote that, did some category entry point research for us. And we started to understand the mental structures and the mental penetration of brands in the category. And we realized, there's a real opportunity for somebody to come in here and own this space. And so I think it was just the background of understanding the power of brand, the fact that we had a little bit of credibility on that, and realizing we brought some really good research that didn't exist in the market. They just decided to take a big bet. And we have huge aspirations, and if you don't put some skin in the game or take some risk on that, you're not going to win. You're not just going to save your way to being number 1. You've got to invest there. And so I was
That's
very thankful.
yeah.
I had some friends at the Martin Agency who sort of leaned in with us, and their whole thing is that it takes tension to get attention. And so we knew, when you're advertising today, you're up against everything that's on the screen. You can watch anything on your iPhone or your laptop or your television today. The whole world's available to you. And so if you're going to do anything in media or on a screen, you better be doing and putting the best foot forward. So I don't know if they've given me enough rope to, ski behind the ski boat or hang myself with, but I guess I will find out. It's one or the other. So.
Well, what I like what you've done is, by the way, I did the same exact thing when I went to ASDA 4 years ago, was got Ehrenberg Bass Institute and How Brands Grow in right away. And what that did for me was gave me a language to communicate to the CFO and the CEO on, how this model can work. And, without that base business understanding, it would have been much more difficult. But because of the depth of research that they've done to show how categories really work, I could go in with more confidence around this is how we're going to measure where we're going and the approach to take. And it's that single-mindedness around a measure to drive that growth, and starting that right at the beginning is so key.
It was really key for us. I mean, she was literally, I'd never met her before. I'd read all her books. I found an email address on their website and cold emailed them and said, well, I need help. I don't know how you help people, but however it is, I need your help. And that research has been foundational, and it's really extraordinary. I think the thing that I loved about it is I love the evidence-based approach to marketing. But I also like that it puts a premium on the quality of the creative has to break through. If the creative isn't going to break through, then it's not going to work. And so I don't want to just all be data and just, data gets you sort of is a race to ugliness and sort of just clickbaity effectiveness. But I don't also want to just do just crazy creative for the sake of doing creative that doesn't have some strategic underpinnings behind it. And I find that they're one of the best models. And to your point, you have the credibility of the data with the CFO and the CEO, and then you have credibility with the marketing community as well, because it puts such a premium, but also a laser focus on this is our message, and it has to be our message every single time. So
yeah, and this is a bit to the side of what I was wanting to talk about today, but it's a fascinating point in that what Ehrenberg Bass and the How Brands Grow is about brand consistency once you identify the furniture you're trying to build. And that's so counter to the agency world at times, who want to get new ideas. And the industry, we get tired of our work much faster than the consumer does.
Yes.
And when you keep changing the advertising model, approach, or copy all the time, which a lot of agencies like to do, not all, but some do, because it keeps the creative fresh, you lose that consistency. So it's a balance between cut through and familiarity. And the data would suggest once you get those brand assets right, you want to stick with it, run that play, and keep running it.
Yes. And for a category like ours, which has 93 to 97% household penetration. Basically, if you have a refrigerator, they have eggs in them. And so I keep telling them adults 25 and over with a refrigerator is our target audience. And we're making the brand with a specific audience in mind, but we're marketing it to everybody. And that's typically the function of how every category works. Anybody in the category, I need them liking and wanting to buy our eggs, but that function. And then it's just broad reach with a really great message that's on message strategy day in and day out. Yeah, I remember, I think it was Al Reese said, making a brand's fun, but building a brand or managing a brand's very boring, because it's just the same thing over and over and over. It's the repetition of and the consistency of that's the key piece to get through, unless your message isn't getting through. And then, of course, you got to find it. But to your point, once you know the furniture, put the furniture in, and leave it alone. Quit moving it around, quit adding things, just put it in and let it go.
Well, there's so many other things to work on outside of keep changing the advertising once you get the furniture right, like customer experience. And in today's role of marketing, it really covers much more responsibility than just the advertising to do that. And you've got to have a whole sense of where the customer is going and how to connect with the customer on so many different levels. One of the things you and I talked about at one point was how you use outcomes. And that's an area that's really interesting to me, to Ben and I, on outcomes and how outcomes can be really powerful to pull teams forward and really set them out there in a different way than just saying, here's a list of objectives. And just talk about a little bit about those outcome-based thinking, because it seems to be a really important way for you to operate.
Yep. You and I have both done a ton of work for Procter & Gamble over our lifetimes. You started there, and I did a ton. And so the OGSM model, right, of sort of objective goals, strategies, and measures was just sort of baked in, and this sort of overarching soft sort of, it got more specific the further it went down, right? At the objective level, it was a little bit squishy. The goal would be a little tighter. The strategy was a little tighter. And then by the time you got to a measure, it was like, oh, okay, I got to get this done by November 15th, right?
Exactly.
You just got more specific the further down the OGSM it got.
Exactly.
But it was just so big and unwieldy. And I think everybody has realized, man, just a document with, 2,000 words on it and 15 sort of points and subpoints and all the way down is just, it's a hard way to manage a business. And so we have been implementing the book Scaling Up, which is really like putting in a new operating system for our business. And a lot of it is built around priorities. And what they say is it's built for high growth companies. And if you're growing at the percentage year over year that we're growing, every quarter is like a year. Every quarter is like a year. So every 3 months is like 12 months for us. So the idea that we would do annual plans is insane. So, that'd be like a 4-year plan. Like, how accurate is your 4-year plan going to be? It's not going to be very clear at all. And so the thing that we're working on is we're starting, so our next quarter ends on Christmas Day, actually the 25th. So we go into planning time next week. So next week we will be thinking about, from December 26th to the time in March when it ends, I don't know the date exactly, what do we want to be true at the end of that quarter? What are the things that we actually want to be, that we can say that are true, that aren't true right now? Statements that you can make. Not, hey, we built a plan for XYZ, or we did this or that, like things that are true then that aren't true now. Like, that's an outcome. And what that does is it suddenly puts tension in the system, because it's like, oh my gosh, I mean, if we're going to do that, can we actually even get that done in that period of time? Well, that's the right conversation to have. Is that the right thing to get done in this period of time, or can that wait to another period because I got 30 other things here fighting for this next 90 days of work? And it really makes us make really specific decisions, but imagining it being true in the future, which really is an outcome. It's imagining the outcome is done and stating it and writing it in a way that it's already done, and making that your goal, your priority. This will be our 3rd round on doing this. And it is like, I don't know, it's magical. I don't know what it is about it. It's hard. It is really, really hard to do. We all think it's so easy to write goals. It is really hard to write a useful goal. Number one. And then number two, like, to imagine it actually being real. I don't know, there's something about it, because you imagine the steps involved in getting there. How realistic is that? It's a discipline that we're trying to build as an organization, and I'm really trying to take seriously as personally, and also pass on to the team as well. So
I tell you what, I think it's such a great idea and such a great story. I mean, outcome-based thinking. I think probably what it does too, Sean, is that with objectives, that's what you want to achieve, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the understanding of what it's going to do in terms of what truth comes to life, that isn't clear when you state it in an objective.
Exactly.
The outcome is like, well, here's where we are, it's what we do. And I think in a left brain world, and you and I are not left brain people. I'm probably twice more left brain, and you're twice more right brain, but but the truth of it is, even we're in right now a right brain world where there's nothing certain. And this idea of three-year planning, strategic planning, that's just to make astrology sound credible. I mean, it's just it's not going to happen. And I think the world's moved to much more uncertainty. And with uncertainty, outcomes really serve you well, because if things don't work exactly, you still have the outcome to go after. With the objective, you're kind of stuck in this working up the bottom of these tasks that the OGSM route was just not workable, because you'll be going really fast in the wrong direction really fast.
It was baked all the way through. I mean, the objective was there, the goal was there, all of the possible strategies and it's not dynamic. And if the objective is not clear, crystal clear, you don't know what you're working towards. And if these things start to fall apart, or the world shifts so that these things aren't relevant, then suddenly you start asking yourself, is that objective even relevant? And if it's fuzzy, or you sit down at the end of the quarter and you're like, hey, I think we got this done. It's like, wait, no, you didn't. We didn't get this done. I thought you meant this when you said that, right? It's like the unclarity of it. I think it was at our coffee where you were talking about, or maybe I read this recently, the difference between sort of a NASA objective of, hey, we're going to dominate the space race, and Kennedy saying, we're going to put a man on the moon at the end of the decade.
That's right. Yeah, I said
One's
that.
An objective. The
Well,
other
actually, he
one's
said
an
that.
outcome.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, you said that. That was you.
Yeah. Well, it's a visual outcome that you can understand. I could have said, we could win the space race, and that would be true.
Yes.
But then,
Well,
how
what
do
does
you?
that look like? How
What's
will
that look
I
like?
know I won the space race? What does that mean?
That's exactly right.
specifically? And what it meant is a human being that lives in America steps on that planet by December 31st, 1969.
That's
what
right.
it means.
That's what it means. And I think there's real power in that. Hey,
Incredible.
one of the things that I think is really important in going and doing new things and new types of quest is connecting it back to making sure you're tied as an outcome to your purpose. And so I was just curious how much of this new work you're doing is tied, and how important is it to be tied to the brand purpose?
Our corporate purpose is advancing happiness. Like, we literally talk about that. We have goals. Every individual at the company, all 30, 40 plus people that work at Happy Egg, all have quarterly advancing happiness goal. What are you doing to advance happiness in your own life and individually? It's 3 of us on the senior team are actually taking a Harvard happiness course. Tal Ben-Shahar created this at Harvard, this happiness course. It's cross-disciplinary. And really doing he's done deep academic work, sort of seminal work around happiness, sort of collecting together from all the disciplines. It's interesting how many write about happiness. And so our core purpose is about that, and it forces everybody to interpret, how did the supply chain team advance happiness? How do you advance that with people working in a plant, with the transportation department, with individuals? How does sales do that with buy? It's a little clearer. It's a little clearer how we do it with consumers. How do we do it internally with one another, and how are we doing it in our life? And so that plays itself out into the brand. If we're going to be about advancing happiness, you have to define what is happiness, number one, and then figure out how are we going about and bringing that out. Sort of one carton of eggs, one shipment of eggs, one egg customer, one egg consumer at a time is sort of the way that we, walk through that. So,
well, I think, that's so interesting, because I do believe, and I've always believed, that you ship your organization.
Yes. That is
And
one
so-
of my favorite quotes of yours. I don't steal it. I do credit you for it, but I say that all the time. You ship your organization.
You ship your organization, and you go back and look, and like, if I could take and we have some. I just had some this morning. Happy Egg. Open up the carton. You could see what kind of organization's behind that brand, and any package on the shelf.
Yes.
You open that up, you could dissect the organizational structure, their principles, their values by looking at the product. And
Yes.
I remember we would go look at cards in stores from a Dayspring standpoint, and those cards, whatever was shipped, will actually tell you what's happening inside the company, whether your art department is in sync with your writing, your editorial, with the concepting. It's all there. It's all there. And so it's why, like an Aldi, those hard discounters, they're so clean all the way through. Yep. And it's why they're never going to turn into a Neiman Marcus, because they would, I don't care what they would try, that's not who they are. And so the fact that you've got such a cool brand that sits at the shelf that says Happy Egg, the organization better be pretty happy, right? Or it's going to be a massive disconnect.
A total and complete disconnect. Or if you call, so we brought customer service in. One of the first things I did when I started is we had a third-party group, and I called it one day. I called their 800 number, and it was, Bless her heart, it was basically like Marge answering the phone and typing at a 1990s keyboard. It was basically like, "Hey, darling, how's it going?" And I was just
A smoker voice.
I was playing dumb, tons of dumb questions. Didn't tell her that I was with the company, and she was very nice and very informed. But it was just the whole time, clackety 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 clack. I don't know. I'll have to ask him about that. It was this fantastic experience. I came back to the senior team meeting. I said, "Has anybody here ever called the 800 number?" Nope, never. I said, "I want you all to do it this week." So everybody called, and I told the marketing team the same thing. They did, and I said, "We're bringing it in house." They were like, "Yeah, let's bring it in house." So we have a human being that talks to people, and their objective is 100% of the people leave that phone call happy.
Oh, that's great.
That is her stated goal. That when she answers the phone, if she steps out of meeting, it's like if you're in a meeting and they call, you answer the phone and you respond to everybody who calls, no matter what it's about. She has her set of things. Some people just want to know, is there soybeans in the feed or corn? Some people, an egg's cracked when I got home, and other people want to know, where do I find them? And some people want to call and just rave about the eggs, talk about how great they are and tell you their stories about using them, etc. But it was one of the first things we did because I wanted our team to know the names of actual consumers who bought the product, because so few customers and companies know that. And so for us, it was very important to me that every touch point all along the way, that there was happiness, and we were hearing about what they're unhappy about so we can go solve and fix those things as well. It's been fantastic, actually.
I would love to be a fly on the wall in some of those customer calls. Anybody ask like which comes first?
Actually, there's a video. Neil deGrasse Tyson answered that question.
and I didn't see that. Ben, did you see that? I didn't see that.
I've not seen that. No.
The egg. He explained the egg came first, but it wasn't from a chicken. He said that's the way natural selection works, is that a bird would have laid an egg that would have had a chicken inside of it, that would have been a genetic mutation that would have been different and would have been the genus and species of a chicken, but it would have been laid by a chicken. That's how he explained it. So I don't know. He's pretty smart. I'm going to go with him.
That's great. That's great. That's great. That's great. So, Sean, how do you keep? You guys are growing like weeds, or like lots of eggs, I guess. I don't know, but what? How do you keep the team growing? Because one of the things also, and we both have experienced working in high growth type startups and entrepreneurial adventures. The biggest challenge I've always had was if we're going 15%, you as individuals have to grow at least 15% to keep up. And so that really puts a premium on learning and development, upskilling people, all of that. How do you do that? What do you do to make that happen?
We were doing some early assessments on teams, and a lot of times teams get built on a matrix of how are they performing and what's their potential. And I was reading a book, the Radical Candor book. In fact, it's on my shelf. Kim Scott. I was looking for her name. Patty McCord recommended that book in her book Powerful, and so I was reading Kim Scott's, and she was talking about this whole potential matrix, about how it's bunk. And what she basically said is, look, how are you assessing the potential of somebody? You don't know what somebody's potential is. At any moment, somebody can turn around and just decide, you know what, I'm done living my life this way. I'm done, sort of performing at this level. I want to perform at this level. And one of the things that you want on your team is that the key for growth is they have to be motivated to do that themselves. If you're just forcing people to learn, they're never going to learn. We are inherently sort of curious creatures, and we're going to learn about the things that we're most curious about. So building that sort of self-motivation, number one. The second thing is that everybody goes through seasons of life when they're hungrier to grow than other seasons. We have a lot of women on the executive team, and one who is a real anchor for us, especially in a category, head of all category management, and a lot of data for sales. She's on 4 months of maternity leave right now. Mm-hmm. Just had her third baby. Like, she's not going to be in as high a growth mode, but she is a rock star inside the company. And so you have to say, at different points in time, people need the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to keep up with the growth of the company right now. I'm not going to exceed the growth of the company. And other people are hungry or to grow and are going to say, you know what, I don't want to just keep up with the growth. I actually want to move up in the organization. And so I want to grow even faster than that. And so that for me was the first thing, is having a conversation with everybody on my team about where are you at right now? What's your capacity for growth, for learning new things, taking on new challenges, being pushed to learn and grow and advance and push your skills? Because you do need, they call them rock stars versus superstars. Normally we think of rock stars as being like the ones that are really great out in front. They're always growing. They're moving up the ladder really fast. And they pointed out that you need rock stars that are steady. They're going to grow at the same pace as the company. They're always going to be there. They're not going anywhere. You can rely on them. And then you have your superstars who are going to be like shooting stars. They're going to maybe move up, and over the next couple of years, they're going to bounce up a couple of levels in the organization. So identifying where people are at first, but not making it optional to grow, because growth isn't an option. So for us, hungry to grow is one of our 4 core values.
Okay.
And so everyone knows that if you aren't hungry to grow, this isn't the right place for you. And so it's interesting, the research that we're doing right now in one of our courses on happiness, what it is saying is a lot of people think happiness is about pleasure. It's not at all. If you actually pursue happiness, you will be less happy. Happiness is the byproduct of other pursuits: spiritual well-being, physical well-being, intellectual well-being, relational well-being, and emotional well-being. If you pursue those things, then you'll have a whole being sort of wellness that actually gives you more life satisfaction, more happiness in your life. And so, and one of the things with our work is it's the challenges that actually drive the happiness. If you have a big goal, something that you're chasing after, having the goal will mean your day-to-day work makes you happier.
Yep. I 100% agree with that.
Achieving the goal will give you less happiness than the pursuit of the goal.
Yep.
And so for us, it's like, guys, look, what we have in front of us is a mountain. Like it's going to be hard. We're just at base camp for Everest right now. And we have a mountain to climb, and we're going to get to the top of it. And wanting to get to the top and all of us having the same goal makes our day-to-day work more meaningful, and it actually brings more happiness in the day-to-day, the grind, the problems we're solving, everything else in a long way. So,
bigQUEST Podcast with Andy Murray will return right after this break.
Today more than ever, we need leaders who lead with the values of excellence, professionalism, innovation, and collegiality, which stand for EPIC. These are the values the Walton College of Business consistently demonstrate. I've worked with the Walton College as a business owner or executive for over 25 years, and I can tell you with certainty, the students we've hired, the exec ed programs, and the insights from their research have made an epic impact and continue to inspire me with new ways of thinking. Their vision to bring thought leadership to the challenges business face today, such as business integrity or how to be a customer-centric organization, that adds real value by creating conversations that connect people with organizations, faculty, industry, and practice. I put a link in the show notes to Dean Matt Waller's Be Epic podcast, where you'll hear stories and get great content that will inspire you to be epic.
We now return to the bigQUEST Podcast with Andy Murray.
It's a good insight to human truth. I mean, I may have told you the story, but the first time I watched the PX90 or P90X, which the advertising for that, I said, this is going to be the biggest failure.
The horrible like chin up thing over and over again.
Yeah. This is going to kill you. This is going to be really, really hard. And I'm thinking, this is the worst marketing ever. And, the human truth that they had jumped in on was, people want that, that's like, if I'm not going to do something that doesn't cost me something, that whole sacrifice of, and it blew me away. But then I had the epiphany that, you know what, people don't all want to take the easy route. Some will, but the truth is the passionate leaders, the people that are passionate about that, they're just going to say, bring it on.
Yeah, we had one of our coaches that's helping us. We have 3 scaling up coaches that's working with our senior team, and one of them is is a cyclist, a hardcore serious cyclist in his mid to late 50s. And, you know, an easy ride for him is 60, 70 miles. And he lives in Nashville. So he's riding the hills there around Nashville. And one weekend, our CEO was checking in with him on a Monday. And he asked the CEO, what did you do? And he's like, oh, it was a great weekend. Sunday, you know, had a little time with the family, had a great Sunday meal, and then took a nap and watched football. And he was like, oh, that's funny. He said, you want to know what I did? I got up in the morning, I rode 100 miles on my bike, and then I came home and had a meal with the family. And then I took a little nap, and then I got up and realized, oh, I got a little time to ride more, and then went on another ride. So I put in over 100 miles on my bike, and that made me really happy. And our CEO was like a light bulb went on for him. And he said, you know what? We need to be the kind of people that happiness looks like not napping on the couch on Sunday and watching football, but it looks like going and riding your bike 100 miles. And I think part of it is just is how do we keep people growing is you have to model it. You have to just say, we're going to be the kind of team that happiness looks like going and pushing ourselves further and pursuing these goals, because it adds meaning to the everyday in our life. And so it was a great that's a great story. You know, does an e-bike count? I have an e-bike. I can get 100 miles on the e-bike, but I need two batteries. Yes,
oh, Ben, could you do the 100-mile thing on a day? I couldn't.
I actually yes. I've done like 30 miles before, but that was a long time ago. And I've been around the cycling guys, so I've seen what they can do. 100 miles for them, but to then go out, I've never heard of anybody going out again after doing a century.
No.
And because there was some time left in the day.
All the time. I follow him on Strava. I see it. It's unbelievable. I just always thought he was bluffing, and, you know, 60, 70 miles at 20 miles an hour average. I mean, just incredible. Who's Carol Dweck, right? She's the woman that does the research around there's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset.
That's right.
And you either go into life thinking that your capacities are fixed. You're just born with talent. Some people are good at things, some people aren't. Or you have a growth mindset and you think, you know what, my where I'm at right now doesn't limit me, and I can go learn how to do anything. I might not be world class at it, but I can go learn how to do it at a proficiency level enough. It's like I have to tell my 5th and 6th grade boys all the time. They're like, I'm no good at science. It's like, science isn't a talent. Like, nobody's good at science. You go study for science. You might not know. And no, nobody's good at studying either. You have to learn how to study. So yes, both of these things are hard to do, and you're going to do them. So.
Boy, you'd be brutal. You'd be really hard to get one around as a dad, I tell you that.
I'm no good at science. That's my favorite one. It's like, yeah, no, nobody is. Nobody's born good at science or math or any of these other things. You just have to go learn them.
Oh, wow, that's great. Ben, any thoughts on your side?
No, I think it's interesting to me how, as you've described everything about the way the organization works there, you know, you just have a bigQUEST mindset. I mean, everything that you're describing, I'm in my head, I'm playing back to some of the pillars in the bigQUEST framework, and I could see how you guys, you know, have history together, and it's almost like you were 2 eggs from the same chicken, if I will. No, but I can see, you know, there's a real similarity in the way you guys think. I promise I wasn't thinking of that joke and waiting to tell it. But yeah, I look forward to unpacking this a little bit more with Andy, because there's so many overtones that fit perfectly into some of the other aspects of the pillar of the bigQUEST framework.
Yeah, you know, I think you're right, and I think the thing that has always been interesting to me in watching Sean through his career and known him for 27 years, you can make a lot of change and do a lot of things without asking for permission or being at the top, and I think that's one of the signature pieces. No matter where you are, whether you're a soloist in your own business or in a big corporate company, the opportunity to lead and do something big is really a mindset and a motivation far beyond what I would call the the science. I'm no good at science. You know, it's like I'm no good at taking on a quest. Well, you got to learn how to do that. You know, there's some skills, and jump in and do it. And I just think neither of us have been ones to wait for permission to try something new. And I think that's what we're trying to do is encourage people that are passionate leaders, that, you know, there's some things you can do to help navigate these challenges to grow, but those opportunities are like the briefs are all around us on the floor. It's just someone needs to pick up the chalk.
Yep. Yeah. You know, that's how you and I met.
Yeah.
Is when you came to Dayspring, you did one of the first things you did in marketing. You and I hadn't met yet. Is you hired a qualitative research group out of Oklahoma City to do a huge consumer study for Dayspring. They'd never done anything like that. We all went up, and all the marketing and the product development and creative, they all got into it, and this group presented. And I mean, in college, I studied very little in college, and ended up getting an art degree just so I could get the certificate and get out of college, because it was just, you know, it was squeeze 4 years into 5, the whole thing. And so I didn't know what qualitative research was, had never heard anything about this. I just had these like rumblings inside, because I'd been there for probably a couple of years by now. And I was like, we're not doing things the right way. I don't know what it is, but we're not doing things the right way. So they do this whole presentation, and it was literally like somebody was sticking electrodes on my brain and firing up my brain. I was just so blown away at what I was hearing. And I went home and wrote my Jerry Maguire paper. Literally, I wrote a 10-page paper on how we needed to completely re-engineer how we did product development and marketing.
Yep.
I printed them all off, and I put them on the manager's desk, my manager and every other manager in all the product development and marketing. I was probably 24 years old, setting them on all these desks. And I remember my boss's boss called me in and basically was like, don't ever do that again. Everybody's mad because they thought we just paid all this money to this research firm, and Sean was doing this project already. And I was like, no, it was inspired by. It was just like, it's a mission statement. It's not a memo, right? I was just totally doing that whole thing. And it was Chuck Solom. Chuck said, well, one thing is the new manager of the marketing kind of liked some of it and wanted to meet you. And so you and I, the first conversation we had was about me having just some, you know, fool kid that got all fired up, wrote this long thing. And I remember you clearly, you were like, hey, I really like this. You should go think more about that. The whole rest of it's not, it's totally off and not any good. I was like, okay, me and this guy, we can figure out something here.
Yeah, you know, those were the days when taking a lot of risk and doing a lot of crazy things. And that's what I said. When you're young in your career, I was only 30, 33, and doing the dumbest things I ever did. I look back now, but it's how I learn. And I remember coming into that business, and when I took over the creative side, basically just told everybody, no more leaders, everybody's on the boards. And that was like a crazy thing to do. And for 3 weeks, I went out in stores and looked at how the cards were selling and talking to people and trying to understand, because you ship your organization. And I remember sneaking back in the building after 3 weeks of being away, because I wanted to see what kind of chaos had been created. And sure enough, the lines were forming by the cubes, but some of the people that weren't the leaders, but they had gifts of helping other people.
Yes.
And they were good teachers.
Yep.
And that's the problem in a lot of organizations. People get promoted on an SME competency, that doesn't make them a great leader.
Yes.
And so they quickly put different people in different roles that had more gifts of leadership. And it was obvious by just looking at where the lines had formed by what cubes. I'd never would take that risk and do that again. But I mean, it was a great learning. You can do those kind of crazy things when you're young.
Yeah, I always tell everybody that first job, the thing that I learned there is if you take the product lines nobody pays any attention to, you can do anything with them and no one will ever ask you anything about it. And so, you know, and you can just go innovate and try different things and do different things. And so, yeah, it was so good. It's just so fun to be in a place where either you're free to do that, or you just kind of figure out how do you navigate around so you can go and do that and try things out. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're creating that culture at Happy Egg with your team, which is great news for those that are going to get a chance to learn and try new things.
Yep.
Which is, just think of the people that the experience they're going to have now at this high growth, cool brand being launched. Those will be memories that they'll celebrate for years to come, because that's the way it works, right? And they'll want to go repeat that experience. So that's the cool part about what you're doing right now.
Yeah, no, it is really fun to think about how, I never thought I would, because in your 30s, you're like, man, I got so much stuff I need to do. And it's like these old guys in their 50s and they all slow down and just want to be mentors. I'm never going to be like that. And now it's like, oh, yeah, no, I definitely want to slow down. I definitely want all them to do the work. So I'll just go work on the culture, right? It's like, how do we build the system that allows this kind of thinking, that makes it safe, that you build vulnerability, there's no fear in the system, people are willing to take risks, you sort of set it up so that they can't burn anything down, they can't break something that's not fixable at the end, but just create these spaces and ways, and then just take your hands off and let them go.
Let them go
do it. Yeah.
One of the things I'd love to hear you just give us a quick piece of advice on, or for young people in their career, because our jobs as we get older is to give back and give some pointers and such like that. If you were 22, 23, 24, your younger self, are there a couple of books that you would recommend to that person to read that might be worth thinking about now, while you're still early in those in the formative years of developing your career?
Yeah, it's really good. That's a great question. For a very early career person, whenever I'm talking about somebody young, I always tell them, find somebody who had, like, who you work with is almost more important than where you work. Now, if you're going to go to a big Fortune 100 company, you're going to find lots of who's that you want to attach yourself to. But attaching yourself to somebody that's older than you is really, really important for your career. Like all of the opportunities that come because of who you meet and who you build relationship with. If you and I wouldn't have built a relationship, we wouldn't have left Dayspring together. I wouldn't have met Tom and Steve. I wouldn't have hung around there and met a whole bunch of people that I met. And so the who you connect with feels really, really important. And I wish there was a book on how to do the whole early piece of career. Yeah. Because I just feel like taking those risks, like take the assignments nobody wants. That's what you built the whole agency around that. You built the whole entire agency around a whole bunch of work nobody wanted to do. And then suddenly it became the most important work at the agency that bought you. And so, Sean,
I didn't know no one else wanted to do that work. You mean you're telling me that's... I thought that was good work. I thought that was the top end of advertising. You mean Shelf Wobblers wasn't the pinnacle?
Whitewashing fences.
Whitewashing fences. Yeah, Ben's an X, Y, and R guy. A funny story. You burst my bubble. Now I like, wait a minute. I wasn't like cleaning sewers.
No, it wasn't, but it was, it was the blue ocean, not the red ocean. Television.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a brown ocean. Yeah.
Advertising is the red ocean, right? Everybody wants to go win a war. You want to win Lion in the Cans. When you were doing advertising, that was it. Nobody thought about the store. And to bring that level of strategy and insight down to the store level was genius, because everybody looked at it and were just like, oh, whatever, that's just like in-store stuff.
Great recovery. Hey, one quick story. One quick story. When you and I met, I don't know if you remember this or not, but once I knew that you weren't going to pay attention to the research in the way that was meant to be brought and had completely different kind of thinking, I found this old blank journal. It was like from a bookstore or something like that. It was a hideous thing, but it was huge. And I'd like to get it returned, but I think you have it. But I remember we took and just wrote in that journal, my dream is to build, a company, and this is the kind of culture. And it was probably inappropriate to be, two colleagues in the same department talking about how they're going to quit the company and start a brand. But I remember writing that out, leaving it on your desk or leaving it in your car somewhere. You'd leave it on my porch. And for probably about 6 months, that dialogue back and forth of what kind of brand do you want to build? What kind of experience? When you climb up the mast and stretch out that telescope, what do you see? And I think, getting people around you in those early stages that think differently than you do, but then have some creative conversation and just have those, C.S. Lewis in the coffee shops with Tolkien. There's those moments where you've got to create the ability to bounce and create ideas together. And that's, I think, if it wasn't for that experience, I don't know if I would have taken the jump, or we would have taken the jump to go do something. But you gotta create environments where you can dream, and have people in your life that you can dream with, so that you have the courage to take those steps when it's time to take them.
Yeah, you really do. I think the whole myth of the lone inventor and creator and the great man or great woman myth is so damaging, and so hampers people. I think the good news about this generation that's coming up is they really think in team. They think in community. They think in who am I doing this with? And I'm sure there's some bad actors in there that think they're the sort of lone wolf in doing it, but I don't see it that much. I see them all. I just hired a new director of innovation. She's extraordinary, and one of the first things she said is hey, there is no innovation starts with I, but our innovation is going to be about we, not I. And so she put together a cross-functional team. Was the first thing she did. She said, I can't do this alone. There's no way. If you think I'm going to be the one that drives this, I'm not going to be the one that drives it. And it was I just knew at that moment, this is absolutely the right person that we hired and put in place.
That's really clever. So did I hear you right? She said, it's not innovation, it's winovation, because it starts with W, which is we. Is that what you just said?
Yeah. I might have told her, well, then call it winovation, since has a we in it. So yes. Yeah, we did coin winovation.
That's brilliant. We got to remember that one, Ben. That's got to go in the book somewhere. Chapter.
I just wrote it down. I just tweeted it. Took credit for it.
Great.
Well, this has been fantastic, man. It's great catching up. Great to hear your story and what you're doing. I can't wait to see how this brand keeps progressing and going. It's almost like what happened to milk. I mean, if you can do what happened to milk.
I hope. Milk, butters, doing it now, the high-end butters. You can argue that Chobani, what they did with Greek yogurt and other things as well, is sort of I hope it ends up that way. And hey, Andy, I wanted to say thank you. We talked about early days. You were literally one of the first people that sort of became somebody that I looked at and said, oh, this is somebody who's, you were 6 years down the road ahead of me. And I just said, oh, this is a person that I could, I want to do something with. I want to hitch my wagon here, or us go do something together. And those, I wouldn't have done the early things I did at Dayspring. I wouldn't have left. I wouldn't have been with, wouldn't have met Tom and Steve. There was a whole bunch of things that just started, that cascaded down, that I really appreciate that. And I can trace back a whole bunch of sort of successes personally, and opportunities I got are linked back just to our relationship. So,
well, Maz, it's mutual. And, it's fun building relationships that you can continue to nourish. And I was asked the other day, what's the secret to building longevity and career and happiness in life? And I said, man, it's the people you work with in your life, and pay attention to them, and give back to them and be part of their lives. So thank you for saying that. I do think that is the secret, I think, for doing anything, because we're still both here and still friends, still working through life and trying to make it better for other people so they can enjoy life and have that's what I mean. Again, that's the only reason I'm really doing bigQUEST, is get an opportunity to have some of those experiences where you wake up in the morning and you can't, like the Wright brothers, right? They said they couldn't wait to get up in the morning. And I just want to recreate that for people. And
well, you certainly have, again, because you emailed me at 4 a.m. this week. So I was like, Andy's back. He's up at 4 a.m. This email has a timestamp of 4:36. And I remember all the time when we'd travel and be in the hotel room together, and I'd hear the door and I'd be like, what in the world? And I'd look over and it'd be 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock, Andy's up. he'd come back at 6:30 and I'd still be in bed. And he's like, man, I've been down there working for an hour and a half. What's the matter? You're burning daylight. So when I got that email, I was like, oh, Andy's excited about bigQUEST.
Yeah, that's the good sign.
4:30 in the morning. That is a good sign.
That's a good sign. I so believe in John Wayne's best phrase, get up, boys, we're burning daylight. So,
the Cowboys movie.
It was the Cowboys movie. You're right, Ben. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. That's so good.
And we don't even talk about early emails from Andy anymore unless it's like 3 o'clock. So 4:30, it's like late.
I'm like an infant. I got my days and nights mixed up. Now I'm getting up at 3 a.m. every day. I can't explain it, and I feel embarrassed to send it to Ben at 3:30 because I know he's not up. But by 4:30, you're up. Come on, you're after it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Well, look how happy we all are. Speaking of, so Andy, the ripple effect. You had this ripple effect in Sean's life, and now Sean's carried that, and he's even trying to make the eggs happy. So
I love that.
Yeah.
How long were you sitting on that one?
I laid that one about a minute and a half.
Is that the last one? Do we need to carry on a couple more minutes because you got another?
Actually, I've got a whole bunch more, but I'll send it to you in an email.
Okay. It is the unbelievable thing about eggs is that they just inspire. There is something about they inspire puns, and I finally told the agency the end of all of their slides in their keynote decks all say that's all yolks, and it has a little egg with wings on it, and then there's an asterisk, and underneath the asterisk it says puns for internal use only. I love it. Very early on, I said, if you show me a headline with an egg pun on it, I will hurt someone. So,
oh boy, wouldn't that be so tempting for an agency just to do that, right? Just do an egg pun.
It's just amazing how they just flow off of everybody. There are so many: chicken and egg, eggs in a basket, yolks, and they invite puns.
That's why I had to cross out most of my references. Realized they were obvious. I'll tell you, one of my favorite things about that conversation was just how fun it was to, anytime I guess you see old friends get together and talk and everything, it's just super great, and it's really one of the things that you talk about is just, when you bring this mindset into your work, you end up creating these memories, these sort of, big quests are the big accomplishments, the achievements, the journeys that you take together with people, as opposed to going to work every day and doing whatever. So I can really see that playing out as you guys just talk. I mean, there's just an energy about what you've accomplished together and experienced together. So
yeah, and I don't think it would have been the same if we hadn't chosen to take on some big challenges and work through them together, or faced big challenges. It's like what Sean said in his company, that the challenges is how you grow. That's how they use growth. And I think putting yourself in a position to take on challenges, which is why we encourage this idea of taking on a big quest, is it puts you in a position where you really do need to count on other people, and you become dependent on others in a way that's very human, because you've got to get through it together. And I think that creates bonds that are just really unbreakable when you get to the end of your career and look back at all those experiences. So yeah, you're right. I think that is really good. I'm still shocked that he thought that the kind of advertising I was doing no one wanted to do, but that's
yeah, well, it was a secret. We all used to talk about you, and we didn't expect.
Everybody knew it but me. I thought I was doing the sexy stuff. I didn't realize that shelf wobblers wasn't sexy.
We thought we had coerced you into doing something. We didn't know it was going to turn out so well. So
exactly, or you wouldn't have said that.
Yeah, we volunteered for it. So
yeah. Well, it's interesting, Ben. There's a company I think that's going to create a whole culture of bigQUEST leaders. That's when I look at what they're doing at Happy Egg and how Sean's working it and their CEO. That's almost to me a story of where the whole company has a culture of right brain thinking tied to purpose, very clear what their outcomes are. They use outcome thinking to even plan the business every 3 months.
Yeah.
And so I know we've been primarily focused on individuals and helping individuals do that. But how fun can it be if the whole enterprise takes on that mindset?
Yeah. Well, one of my concerns, we talk about this. One of my concerns is that people hear about bigQuest and they'll think, okay, well, we're not really on any big quests right now.
Mm,
And and people might tend to think of a big quest as like when there's a problem,
yeah.
and it reminds me of the difference between problems and opportunities that,
Mhm.
problems are things you mitigate, right?
Yeah.
Negative outcomes and so forth. But one of the things about the mindset, I mean, picture this, I mean, happy
Hmm.
egg. I mean, there's an industry who needs to innovate, eggs
Right.
have been laid for,
Exactly.
thousands of years. It's like, okay, the chickens lay the eggs. We take the eggs to
Right.
market. People buy the eggs and eat them.
Right.
Uh,
Very simple.
so who in their right mind says, "Hey, let's innovate around eggs"?
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive, and
And who said
yet
eggs had to have
it,
an emotion of happiness? I mean, just putting those two ideas together was brilliant.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so that's an example of how I'm not going to say it starts with the mindset, because
Mm,
the methods sometimes create the mindset and so forth.
yeah.
But at some point, there becomes a mindset, and it's this idea of growth. And it's like, just because things are the way they are doesn't mean that they have to stay that way. So there's an appetite for creating big quests out of what others may think. And this goes back to your
Yeah.
opportunity in the stores with the customer marketing, which is a great example. Just
Yeah.
because customers already go to stores doesn't
Hmm.
mean that it has to stay that way. That
That's right.
it's just eggs.
Yeah.
I remember I worked on the milk account many years ago, and I remember coming into the agency that had that milk account, and I was like, wait a minute, there's a whole marketing campaign for milk. You just buy milk. I mean, if there's even a mention of snow, people just flock to the stores and clear the shelves of milk. Who needs to market milk?
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. A lot of people want to wait, like kind of go for signing up for the cool brands. And then
mhm,
everybody wants in advertising to work on cool brands and all that
yeah,
stuff. But how about making a cool brand, right? I mean, so eggs, like you
yeah,
said, eggs are eggs, milk's milk. But to me, it's the people that think different are the ones that look at that and say, you know what, there's a real opportunity here. So,
right,
these quests that we're talking about are not just really to solve problems or get somebody out of a crisis. I think can do. It's there, and it certainly
yeah.
works that way. But boy, it's a lot more fun sometimes when you're just a little bit more time to do some blue ocean thinking and being creative and then making something happen. So, yeah.
Right. Well, and I was thinking too, if I can just reflect a little bit on what I made some notes while you guys were talking. Um, and, I was thinking about this idea of having a big goal or a big outcome, once you
Hmm.
picture an outcome. And I thought as I was listening and just pondering, processing that, I was realizing that, you know, the thing that a goal does, there's really kind of two things that it does. I mean, of course,
Mm.
everybody knows that number one, it gives people a reason to engage, that
Yep.
to start something, oh, let's put a man on the moon. Okay, let's put a man on the moon. But maybe even more importantly, it gives people a reason to persist when things get hard. You know, it gives context to our suffering, if you will. When there's something challenge that we encounter, an obstacle. If there weren't some goal beyond it, it would just be another reason to quit, and a reason to give up. And it's the only thing, those sort of outcomes that we paint for people are the only reason to
Mhm.
stand into an obstacle, to lean into it, press through it, and to overcome it. And it's what, you talk a lot about, the dragons.
Yeah.
And, when you start to see obstacles as barriers between you and a quest that you're on, then you take a whole different posture toward those obstacles instead of running from them and going, moving your family to someplace where there's no dragons. You actually seek out the dragons because they're going to threaten the way of life that you envision for
And actually,
yourself.
once you get after, I mean, it's a great point. And once you've slayed a few of them, you realize you can,
And then
and
you become a dragon slayer,
exactly.
and it
And,
becomes your identity.
Well, what I've started to think about a lot about is that, as you and I've talked, there's not that many that are that different, and they come at you pretty same. And so these obstacles, they call them dragons. There is a Dragon Hall of Fame, and there's probably 4 or 5 of them that we all face, which is, the ones that are like, I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough. Like, it's about you personally not being able to do it. You're going to face that one and go for it. Or the organization's not ready and they're not going to support me, and that's kind of an external one in the organization. Or you get those kind of 2 things, or we can't get the money, or whatever. And there's not that many different ones to face. And once you've learned how to reframe the challenge and get through that, the next big quest you're on, you recognize it right away. It's like, I've seen you before, and this is how I took you down. It'll probably work again the same way. And so that is what's addictive, I think, is being able to do that and then go through it, and you get good at it. For most people, want to walk away from them or ignore them, or pretend they don't exist, but they're there, and you just got to get good at beating them.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned with the fella coming up that we're is going to row across the Atlantic. That it once that mindset takes over, like he went out and got his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and once you envision yourself as a dragon slayer, then you almost are looking for dragons to take on. It really is a mindset. And I can see in Sean's posture, here's a guy who's not waiting around to see if eggs evolve and then I'll do something. He's actually saying, hey, I think there's a future. There's something about eggs and happiness that we should be able to put together.
I know. And I think it's seeing those, it's looking to that land beyond the land, and is saying, hey, what's out there? Let's go look. And that's what I think makes a really good leader for a quest. And so, that's great. A great interview. Great discussion, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the bigQUEST podcast with Andy Murray. Make sure to head over to bigQUEST.com to download our free checklist to launch your own big quest. On the website, you'll find resources and ideas around the method, mindset, and motivation concepts behind the bigQUEST framework. If you like this episode, make sure to subscribe and leave a comment. We'd love to hear what resonated with you today. And if you want to share this podcast, we're available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, Google Play, and anywhere you listen to audio. Our goal with this podcast is to help passionate leaders think differently and make meaningful change. Be sure to subscribe so you'll be notified when the next episode goes live. Until next time, I'm Ben Ortliff here with Andy Murray, reminding you to think big and quest on.